Welcome everybody back to our Influencer Insights podcast. I guess that's the terminology we're using now. We've had a few people on, and we're looking forward to bringing more on. Today we have Tessa Boutin on today from Airdrie, Alberta, to share a little bit about some of the work she does in her coaching program. And she's a mom who's got a deep passion for love and life for her family and her community. And so she's currently registered to take massage therapy, and she's volunteering in her community, and she's going to talk a little bit about that and some of the things that she does, and shares a lot about the healing and stuff. And so this is a really great podcast if you're interested in growing yourself in your mental health space and working on that internal healing. I think Tessa's got some really great things to share with us. So Tessa, welcome. Glad to have you here. You're a coach. I think we kind of talked a little bit offline, and you want to just tell us a little bit about coaching and how you got into that field and where you're going with that.
Thank you. Yes. I think the biggest thing that I have been able to help people through is a lot of grief and regulating emotions and paying attention to their inner dialect and how that reflects outward to them and the closest people around them as well, and what it means for the self to set boundaries and how to honor that and respect that when you're moving through some extreme transitional times and you don't often want to rely on the triggered trauma response action steps. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
What kind of got you into being like, was there a moment in time or something that happened to you that you're like, man, I really want to try and help other people through whatever it went through? Was that a kind of an epiphany moment, or did it just fall into place that you just decided to start coaching? Did other people ask you about getting some help, or how did you get started that way?
Well, I was doing it intuitively in a group of friends in my early 30s, and then I was doing it within our family unit, and it just when you take on so many things that really mean a lot to you, it sometimes can be a little bit much, and you forget about caring for aspects of yourself. And
Yes.
when you go do things to kind of channel that grounding energy, to ignite that inner child, to
Yes.
bring back some of that light and zest and keep it fresh. I lived in my head in a moment of going into figure skating one evening, and I ended up experiencing a concussion, and it was my third one. I've been through quite a bit physically throughout my life, illnesses, broken bones, but like I've got some good insight on things. But it made me very aware of where I was sitting within my shadowy aspect of what I was perceiving from the world, from the relationships around me, and how I was moving forward within my habits and my step forward. And if that was something that I wanted to speak out to the world and give light to. And then I really became focused on healing aspects of myself, past versions, what no longer serves us right now in this life. So it's
Do you have one past version of yourself that you'd care to share with us that you were like, this is the person I was, and through my kind of work on yourself made that shift, and you're no longer that person? Do you have one of those traits that maybe you share that's not triggering, put it that way, I guess? But
yeah, well, I used to work professionally in the medical industry with the health services in Alberta here. You know, when I experienced my moment on the ice, I reviewed how I was going about my care path and communicating with my doctor a lot and trying different medications. And I have some family history around addictions with prescription medications and things like that. And so I was really feeling ill, and to manage some anxiety, I was utilizing plant medicine already through CBD and
Right.
now we know
Yeah.
so much more about all the different terpenes than we did
Yeah. Yeah, for
then,
sure.
thankfully. So there's been quite a bit of adjustment in the different types of terpenes that I want to welcome into my
Right.
body now. And it seemed to be the best medicine for me to move forward in having focus on my daily routine, my ritual, getting getting my emotions out because they
Yeah.
were coming whether I liked it or not.
They always do.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so it was a combination of meditation and megahertz, like Joe Dispenza's stuff that he does. I really like, I would get my daughter to school, I would come home, I'd have my yoga mat, I'd have all my crystals around to help with the healing aspects, like keep the
Yeah.
vibration up.
Yeah.
And then I'd put on my earphones and I'd lay down in my shavasana and be open, and I would just let it channel
Sure.
and really start to pay attention to how I wanted to heal my brain and then heal parts of I didn't realize at the time was like my body, not
Right.
just
Yeah.
emotions that are around. Since digging into all of that, I've since discovered the physiological aspects that turn into the physical forms of disease that live in our
Right.
body and get activated with certain things. And my dad passed away in 2021 from stage 4 lung cancer. And
Oh,
during that time, I just really went in and researched it and wanted to get a greater understanding of what he was going through
sure.
at the
Sure.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to
So
hear that. The
thank
challenges in life.
you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. They,
yeah, it's a blessing for his body. He
right.
he breathed deep as long as he could. So
Good. Good.
yeah.
What, you know, coaching in itself, like if you're not aware, I do some coaching myself, and it's a really self-removing process because you have to take everything that you're kind of learned and experienced and give it to somebody else in a moment, right? That's part of coaching process is to try to remove yourself to help somebody else, right? What are some of the things that really inspire you to move in that direction to try and say, hey, like I'm making this world tempting to make the world better because I do this, or I want to try and see this improvement in the world, or I want to see this change. You have something that kind of really just triggers you that way to help other people in that way.
Every time that I am confronted with a moment that can offer someone the space to say whatever is on their heart,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that has made the biggest impact
Mm-hmm.
all else, above all else. I have a very unique grounding ability within me, and I think that that offers people that are around me comfort to share some of those things that within the chaotic world around has come
Yes.
into their worlds to make the chaos come. The more people that I connect with, the more stories I hear about how lives have been changed and impacted so much over the last few years that
Yes.
it just it's like, okay, thank you for sharing, and let's wrap up that little bit of fire there, and like let's just store it in here for a moment,
Yeah.
and when we have enough stored in there, there's an idea brewing, and like I don't know how it's all going to come out. It's just there's so many voices that don't have access to their voices, and I know what that
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah.
Even learning the tools and practicing them,
Yeah.
I still know what it feels like because I've
Mm-hmm.
had to do that work again
Right.
to get out of
Right.
that space. It's a passion for wanting to keep that light going.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
I have a lot of gratitude for the beings that support me with their lights to have a
Mm-hmm.
constant reminder that
Absolutely.
we're here to shine. Let's help each other, lift each other up.
Like that. What you talked about grounding, and you kind of talked about your daily rituals. So I'm guessing there's some connection point there a little bit, right? Do you mind tell us a little bit about your ritual that kind of keeps you in that grounded space there? Or?
Well, it transitions a little bit.
Sure,
So right now I
that's
think
okay.
I'm used to being earlier in the day, like around
Okay,
5 a.m. And I would give myself from 5 to 8 to
Wow.
do some breath work, do some journaling, do a mantra, either
Hmm.
play my guitar or a
Cool.
drum or like a shaker, some form of music in there,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
some form of movement, whether it be stretching, yoga, or do like dancing and like
Cool.
channeling some form of emotion to come up to let go
Well,
and release. And then yeah, so it depends on what's going through the head when I wake up in the morning.
sure.
And yeah,
You're
so it's
usually able to do that for 2 or 3 hours like that, or
well, it's very broken up, so I give
okay.
myself the space of 3 hours to do it, so I'm not
Cool.
hard on myself,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that is an aspect of the inner dialect that would come out to be critical of
Yes.
the emotions of how I would get stuck in a moment and not be able to come out.
Yeah.
And then I would not focus on the actual three priorities that I have for my day and
Sure.
lose myself in that. So,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Those darn emotions just get a person every time, man.
Yeah.
Such a roller coaster some days. But I like the part about movement. I know breath work to me. I can't believe when I started to realize the power of how breath just calms us, right? Just in and out. And I know, I don't know, Tony Robbins, you're probably familiar with a little bit, but he talks about, just getting up and getting big and strong and stretching, and that just changes your state really fast. And how that can set your whole day in a different direction. So I love that. That's awesome. So, tell me a little bit about your music there, really quick. You probably said you play the guitar, which I do a little bit. So, do you do that for fun or show or anything like that, or is that just
Mostly for fun. Um, in Airdrie here, the group of women that I volunteer with at the Spirit Within, we like to gather in circle, and
cool?
so that's where the drums usually come into play. And
Hmm.
we've played on at the amphitheater in Nose Creek Park here. That's
Very cool.
um, our community park, and it was really cool because it was a celebration within like the pagan religion.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so
Cool.
it was cool to see it just be celebrated. And we had a relationship with um, one of our indigenous community members as well come and join within the
Hmm.
ceremony,
Cool.
and it
Cool.
was it was really fun, and I very much look forward to like continuing singing and playing more with these beings that I'm so grateful to be around when I'm able to. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
And
And mostly the music is for me here, and I keep being told you got to just put it on your social medias and just get it all out there. And so
totally.
there's some things and not a lot of original written pieces as of yet.
Sure.
Uh, combing through, I haven't yet felt the courage to comb through some stuff that I've written before, and some new stuff is being inspired to come out as of lately. So I'm
Cool.
excited about that. Yeah, thanks.
Well, feel free to share that in our group and just throw it to anybody listening to that. Part of the reason I started a support group for models and influencers and that sort of thing is to share those creatives and get that positive feedback that you need to kind of get yourself launched. So yeah, when you get those songs, Tessa, we'd love to hear those as well. So,
Thank you. Thanks.
um,
And like
yeah,
a lot of my expression comes through dance as well too. So um,
very
that's
cool.
what you'll mostly see on the Instagram if you check that out.
Cool. You mentioned the spirit within, and I'm not sure if I probably forgot to introduce that. That's part of what you work with your coaching through that group, right? This can you explain the spirit within a little bit, or
Yes. The Spirit Within is we have a metaphysical space, a store, pardon
cool?
me, metaphysical space,
Yeah.
a store, and then there's Reiki practitioner rooms, and like we have tuning forks, we have crystal sound bowls, we have um, Reiki energy clearing soon, eventually there will be massage therapy as well.
Cool.
And what it is, it's a space for practitioners to come, volunteer their time, make connections within the community. And
Cool.
there is business coaching there that helps, and great community support. They've been there for me through one of the hardest times in my life, and I'm extremely grateful. And we've been able to help so many people with the community closet that we have set up there for anyone who is suffering hardships and is not able to afford summer clothes or winter clothes. We had a bunch going through last year, and just if anybody needs, like we did, if you can spare $5 for donation, because we have a little cafe there for the teenagers to come.
Oh, cool.
Whenever the hours of the store are open, so they can hang out.
Very cool.
Have a safe space to just be whoever, whatever they are in that moment, and not have to worry about anything. And
very cool.
There's usually quite a few of the team members and adults around to help with some guidance and things like that. And the teams that hang out there, they volunteer in the shop as well. And we've been able to connect with a couple of schools to do some volunteer hours that count towards credit.
Cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
some really beautiful, amazing things have been happening with a lot of the team members there.
So if you're in the Airdrie area, I mean, I guess reach out to Tessa and talk to her about getting involved in that too. So if you can volunteer, I'm sure they take your help, or if you need some help, I'm sure they'd be happy to.
Totally.
So,
always an opportunity to learn as well.
Yes.
We're always students, so.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, no better way to learn yourself than to help somebody else, right? So getting on maybe a little shift in there, talking a little bit more personal on your level there. What is something that you feel people have misunderstood about you in the past? I mean, again, coaching and trying to do things that are maybe not quite the general path, right, is always falls in with some criticism and some backlash and that sort of thing. So can you tell us a little bit about some of that and how you've managed that through the years?
Yeah, I think that the things that stick out mostly for me are confusion on my intent around my self-expression.
Cool.
And some of the tools and paths that I've decided to take are not common.
Yeah.
They're not, they're a lot more accepted in society than they have been in the past. And this is something that I'm creating space for within myself, because I kind of still am like, I kind of don't believe it still. And yet every new connection I've been making as of recently, I'm like, okay, so like, be cool, mom, just chill out.
Relax.
Like, calm down and like have some confidence. Like, you're living proof of it. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So just really diving into the herbs and embodiment practice of finding out and asking myself, okay, I have this discomfort in this area. How can I find something to nourish my body to make it more balanced and stable? How can I incorporate gentle movement so that I'm not re-injuring myself over and over and over again? How can I create space to offer more rest and slow down so that I'm not all in a hype, and not be so hard on myself for not retaining as much information as I used to be able to at a quicker rate? So it's reaching for the tools at the same time. So
what's a tool that you discovered that you just keep going back to over and over again?
Journaling, singing, cannabis helps a lot with releasing sometimes. One of the ones that I've been welcoming in prior was like microdosing mushrooms.
Oh,
and introducing not just the psychedelic aspect of it, just to have
right.
like there's a 7 blend that I take every single morning. It's
Wow.
purposeful to help with my cognitive function, my memory retention, my immune system, and like
Sure.
my all around well being. There's so much power in the mushrooms that
Hmm.
we have available to us. And I'm
Right.
really grateful that there's a lot of really awesome beings out there who do the
Understand.
foraging and
Yeah.
the creation of it. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that's all about finding the right dose and managing the balance of the different ones and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah,
So
well, these ones are not, these ones don't have any psychoactive effects at all.
okay. Okay.
So these ones are more like lion's mane, turkey tail, reishi, shaga mushroom,
Hmm.
maitake, cordyceps. Um, they all have, they all speak to the body just a little bit different. And there's
Cool.
so much power within mushrooms. Like I
Hmm.
can't remember the name of the Netflix special that they have on there, and they go into a bunch of different types of mushrooms. And
Sure.
the basis of the growth of it is the same. Is something dies, the fungi come up, bring new life to it, and there's something completely new that's created
Hmm.
within it.
Wow.
So it really
Butterfly effect.
helps with, yeah, it helps with the neural pathways. It helps flipping that loop, like being able to, okay, catch that just a little bit sooner, and then
Right.
focus is just a little bit more fluid. So yeah.
Interesting. Very cool. I'll have to check out the documentary there. I'm not that up on that stuff, but it's I know there's a lot of medical, so scientific background and stuff too. So it's very cool.
Yeah, they're big helpers when doing some generational trauma release.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Um, you mentioned in the notes that we talked about before, you said the last 2 years have been a little bit of transitioning and upgrading your perspective on how you view love and life and relationships. And that point really stuck out to me. And I'd just like to, yeah, dive into that. What are some of the perspective changes that happened? What are some of the transition things that have happened for you, if you don't mind sharing? And yeah,
Sure. Well, they're pretty personal within my family unit.
sure.
Our family dog that we had for like 13 years transitioned,
Wow,
and that was an experience on its own.
absolutely.
And
Huge.
a couple months later, my father transitioned
Right.
as well, and we all grieve in our own graces and within the patience that we have for ourselves.
Hmm.
And the experience that we all shared, it's not something you get over that quickly.
Of course. Yeah. No.
And I hold a lot of gratitude for the strength that each of us have,
Yeah.
and and that we were able to be there in the first place,
Yeah. Absolutely.
like
Do
at
you?
all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
have that piece of life together and enjoy that moment. And yeah,
Yeah. So through those transitions, all the tools and all the things that I was always like, okay, I have this prepared. Like I asked one of my like vocal coaches and a friend, and I was like, what do I
what to
do?
do. Yeah.
What do I do before this happens?
Right.
I could already feel myself going into a freeze, kind of
Yeah.
foggy state.
Yeah.
And she was like, you write out the things that you need. You
Hmm.
need to be able to survive,
Hmm.
get up every day, get out of bed, and
Yeah.
show up.
Keep going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the things that I thought I needed, I prepared. I had the bone broth in the freezer. I had the cannabis that I required. I
Yeah.
had paint. I had notebooks. I had
Cars goes. Yeah.
like I had everything, and it was like it just needed to be sad.
Yeah.
It just needed to be sad. And I couldn't push anger through. I couldn't
Mm,
force the joy. It was like there was this heavy weighted blanket
mm,
just sitting on me.
mm.
And my mom passed away suddenly in 2011. I remember the feeling of that blanket, and it was
Right.
just like,
Wait. Yeah.
yeah. And so I'm very grateful that my daughter is so very smart and loving and kind, and she knows
Mm,
what she needs. And I'm so grateful that she hears me when I go off on my tangents of
yeah.
self-love and things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And she needed her dad
Yeah.
after that time. And so I needed to create more space to love
Hmm.
myself. And
Sure.
I needed to find different ways to be creative, and outside was my medicine.
Way to go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to stay in Drumheller last summer for a
Mm,
couple months and connect
very
with the
cool.
community out there.
Wow.
And the best thing that I could have done for myself was every day go down to that river
Yeah.
and sing to it.
Sure. Just enjoy
Yeah,
nature and the water flowing and
yeah. Whether it was a walk or it was riding my bike or I drove down to the beach that was there, I just I
mm,
needed to give it all to the water
yeah.
and have that magical essence of what Mother Nature is help
Sure.
with it. So
Was that
they say trees are the earth's effort to speak to the listening heavens. So I'm a very firm believer within that.
mm, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you kind of going through that summer, do you feel like coming back to home and regular life after being in Drumheller, like did that start to ease you back into finding a little bit more peace again? And maybe the sadness, I know it never goes away, but maybe it subsides a little bit or whatever. Like, did you find that that was kind of the thing that you needed to do to get back on track again, or how would you describe that?
Yeah. Yeah, it gave me an opportunity to just hear myself
Yeah,
and nothing else.
yeah,
And that still took time to turn down and shut off.
sure, of
So
course,
yeah,
yeah,
um, it
break
made it
through,
easier to hold those boundaries of what I'm worth, to come forward and where I do want to have the support in my life, and where
yes,
that support's not necessarily in resonance with me anymore, and that's okay too. So
yeah,
yeah, just a review of priorities, a review of steps forward and where I saw myself going and how I saw myself helping people.
right, of
And
course,
there was more transition when I came back. I ended up selling my home
mm,
and moving and
big
downsizing from
step,
a 3-bedroom townhome to a 2-bedroom apartment.
okay,
And so there's been a lot of releasing of not just metaphysical, physiological things, it's physical as
mm,
well too. So when you say have I gone through like a lot of I'm definitely not that way anymore. And there's for sure some things that like I've got Taurus within my astrological mapping. I know how to stick with that pretty good at times, be
good,
really stubborn
yeah,
and yeah, and just feel your emotions. and allow them to be whatever they are. Because just like me being the person standing in line at the bank and holding space for somebody to tell me their experience
Mm,
within their health from what's going on right now in the world,
yeah.
to memories of sitting on the couch in the shop in Drumheller and having complete strangers just listen to me sit there,
Mm,
and I don't even remember what I was saying,
right.
and then crying.
Yeah. Sure.
Like we we are a very connected human race, and the impact that we make on each connection that we make throughout our day
Oh,
is very impactful, and I don't
absolutely.
think that a lot of us have the awareness of that.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's even those scenarios where you see somebody, they're ordering a coffee and somebody put the wrong stuff in the coffee and they blow up, and it's this whole big thing over something that doesn't not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. But those small decisions that we make that aren't always that positive, they can become a huge snowball effect of negativity and pain on somebody else, because on your bad day, throw it on somebody else. They throw it on somebody else, and it's just as catapult of chain reaction down the line of everybody feeling the same. So in reverse, you can do the same by listening and sharing and connecting with people, and just realizing that we're all going through stuff every day, right? Doesn't matter. Some of us sometimes death in families is super challenging and super hard. Um, but there's also people going through other things that, you know, sickness or maybe financial issues, or they're trying to get this career thing figured out, whatever it is. All of those things are just huge challenges that we can support one another in the path forward when we're kind of aligned together, at least thinking in the right direction, right? So do you think, Tessa, because you've kind of been on this journey of I don't know if we'll call it self-discovery or learning self-awareness growth and that sort of thing for a number of years, and kind of going through the low point that you've just gone through the last couple of years, how much better off do you think you were because of the work that you've done before versus if you kind of didn't have any of that pre-work, didn't have any of that understanding or awareness beforehand? Is that something some people should dig into now, even if they're not going through a challenge? Or
100%. Yeah. Because then you get to know yourself and you get to review. The greatest thing that I learned was to take the 5 closest people that surround you every day and
yeah,
review what that relationship feels like for you.
right.
And then here's the fun part: look in the mirror with them all and then
Yeah.
review that.
Mm,
And then if you're super close with your family, then it's sometimes getting to that root is something you're never going to discover
right.
because it's not yours. And the
It's not
beauty of
yours.
that is where you can just let it go. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of
Yes.
the work.
Yes.
And it's the epiphany of having that in conversation. And oftentimes it's people saying it to you, not you saying it for people.
Yes.
And watching that literally change how their body
Mm,
speaks when
right.
they are moving and
Yeah.
how they function. And just, it's a miracle
It is.
to
Yep.
observe and witness. And it's also, sometimes it is the highlight, joyous, most happiest thing because you're celebrating that inner child that just makes that fire ignite, and the joy that sparks out to everybody. And then it's the 5 closest connections in the upper vibrational aspect of things
Yeah.
too. So yeah, it's
No,
pretty
that's
cool
cool.
that way.
I like that
Thanks.
example a lot. So yeah, all our network, the people that surround us every day. I think, unfortunately, there's times in life when some people need to take a back burner to your friendship circle, right? Because they're not serving, they're not adding value, and they're not, you know, building anybody else up, right? So the more you can find the people around you that build and grow and encourage, and I mean, share when things aren't going good and put that vulnerability out there. I think that really helps us all kind of move forward too, right? So
Yeah, definitely. The greatest gift that you can give yourself is having one of your support systems or your friends or a family member sit there and say, "Oh, don't say that to my friend. That was
yeah,
mean. That was
yeah,
rude."
yeah, huge.
Yeah,
That's a real friend,
yeah,
right? Not just somebody thinking about it in the background and or agreeing with the person that shouldn't be saying that too, right? So,
right. Yeah.
what are some things kind of now that some of the transitional stuff's kind of maybe leveling out a little bit and you're kind of on a new direction now? What are some of the big ambitions, the dreams you're kind of seeing for yourself next couple of years? Do you want to go your coaching, get through the massage therapy, schooling, and all that stuff? Where do you want to go here?
I'm in the midst of getting my coaching going. So that
Awesome.
is
Right
something
on.
that's pretty important to me right now. And
Cool.
I do want to work the registered massage therapy hand in hand with that within the coaching. Um,
Makes
there's
sense.
a lot of embodiment practices that you can do on yourself that is super healthy and very, very helpful for the vessel that you don't necessarily need to go outside of the home or the self to do because we have the
Right.
tools within us to be able to
Yeah.
do everything.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the coaching, there's I'm a big fan of astrology and how that is tied with psychology, and that's kind of
Sure.
something that I like to focus in when I work with clients on as well.
Cool.
Um, it's pretty helpful. Carl Jung used to do that with his psychology patients,
Okay.
and I kind of like really went in with that
Sure.
during a time, and find that when we have a good sense of what's happening with the planet, then we have an easier idea of what's coming through energetically to manage the anxieties and
True.
maybe those darker voices that spring up in there to, oh, no, we need to reel that one down just a little bit more and let's pump that
Yes.
one up. Let's,
Yes.
do this. Maybe stay away from alcohol a little bit more this way, incorporate some more nutritious foods, higher vibrational foods here. Like
Yes. Yeah.
life is an influx and
Yeah.
we're human and we need to be able to create space for those energies that come through in that way.
Yeah.
And
Find the right
knowing the
balance.
astrology is it really does help.
Sure.
And it's not just about love all the time, even though
Right.
that's like what it's like wildly
Sold
celebrated
as.
within Western society for. Yeah, it's like
Yes.
it's not really the basis of it. It's very great and love is amazing. And our world is that's not the world we function in at this particular time. So
Fortunately
let's
not.
work
Yeah.
together to get there. Yeah.
Great. Great. No, that's amazing. And I'm sure that's something that you're again looking forward to helping people with in your coaching program and with the massage therapy and all that stuff, right? It's bringing people up. And again, that's why I wanted to put this group together so we all have that opportunity to share a network in that way as well. So you've got some other hobbies on the go as well. You're going to explore modeling some. You're going to learn to ride a horse and sustainable living. So those sound like some fun things. Do you have any plans for any of that stuff? Or
Well, I the horse I feel like is more of like a you have to establish that relationship with an animal before you just go and hop on it.
yes,
And so there's
I've been bucked off.
I'm
It's not fun. So
yeah. I'm extremely grateful and blessed to be able to have some connections where I'm able to spend time with some animals that way. And
cool.
there's one horse that just kind of stole my heart when I was around the Drumheller area last year,
Cool.
and I just yeah, she's she's a beauty.
Awesome.
And so far we just talk to each other and I feed her
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy with that. And I'm overprotective of my head. so my
Of
caution
course.
factor is quite high for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she'll tell me when it's time, because
That's right.
horses have amazing abilities. So
And a lot of personality. So yeah, you're right.
yeah.
They will talk to you. So yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Thanks.
So if people are interested, especially people that are around Airdrie that maybe want to get involved with the spirit within, how do they, or maybe they want to talk to you about coaching or some of the astrology work or some of the breath work or journaling and any of those things that we know that you've experienced and grown and become somewhat of an expert in. Obviously, how do people get a hold of you? How do they find out or talk to you about those kind of things?
The business name that I have established is called Gaia Luna Wellness,
Cool.
and it kind of plays into my journey of spending a lot of time awake at night talking to the moon,
Sure.
creating a lot of things, writing, and grounding with the beautiful nature that we have at our fingertips and the
Cool.
relationship that we have with both of them
Right
and
on.
what that means for us as a whole. So um I'm on I'm on social media currently. My website is going to be going live as soon as I give the
Right
go
on.
to my business coach, and I almost did it the other day and I was like, oh, not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
So
Whoa.
I need to just do it. It's because I have a very I have a blog post on there that I was working on for a while, and
Cool.
it means a lot to me, and so I think
Mhm.
I'm nervous to let it just be out there on the World Wide Web and have another aspect of my voice heard.
Yes.
So
Internet's a big place. So
you never know who's gonna see that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, again, feel free to share that with the group when it's up and going because I think everybody would like to come and check out your blog post and that sort of thing. So aside from
Thank
that,
you.
do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave with people or things, just one burning thing that you've been wanting to say this whole interview to others that are maybe experiencing some of those hardships or thinking about getting into more self-awareness growth and that sort of thing. So
Don't overstimulate yourself.
mm,
Take what resonates and really leave the rest.
yeah,
All of it.
yeah,
There's a reason for that.
yeah.
And listen to your body,
Mm,
listen to your heart, listen to your stomach,
yes,
listen to how everything is. And all the answers are within.
absolutely. Cool.
Yeah. So you know best what you need, and don't let anybody outside of you tell you any different, no matter how much control they have.
Awesome. That's fantastic advice. Yeah, things we all need to take heart. So thank you, Tess, for being on. We really appreciate you and your story and sharing some of the vulnerability again that you did today. Thank you very much for that. And we look forward to watching you grow your coaching program and get into massage therapy. It's yeah, all great things to do to help others, and we're looking forward to supporting you and watching the journey along the way. So
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
right on. Thank you.